Assalamu alaikum, dear students. Today we'll talk about research writing and documenting sources. But the main focus of today's lecture will be how to document sources. I'll discuss it, of course, later what I actually mean by documenting sources. I would first like to talk very briefly about research writing. Why I'm not focusing more on research writing for one reason, because in our last, few classes, we have directly, indirectly talked a lot about, in a way, research writing. If you remember, we studied in 2 classes the process of writing. Now, the process of writing, indirectly, we were actually talking about, research writing in a way. Like if you can recall the process, which we discussed, out of many different processes, if you remember, like it was inputting, processing and outputting, and then, planning and organizing and activating and, then, controlling. So different processes I discussed with you. But then, towards the actual, thesis of my lecture, which I discussed with you, was six, step process of writing. There we talked about, invention, collection, and then organization, and then drafting and revising and proofreading and editing. This is how we actually talked about. Invention was, of course, like finding out your, purpose of your research, knowing about your audience, and then, of course, finalizing your topic. And then in collection, we talked about 2, different sources of information. One channel was internal and second was external. Internal mean like, you yourself, and external, libraries and, internet and, resource persons and, things of the stuff. And then we talked about, organizing, mean preparing an outline of like, all, the pieces of information, which you collect out of, all these internal or external sources. And then we go down to, actually writing that, essay or that writing or that research, and then going down to, it's revising and it's, editing and proofreading. Exactly the same way, research we conduct. Just to give you a bird's eye view, of course, in research also, we find a topic to write about or to research, and then in the second step, what we do actually, we frame the research question. Framing the research question actually means, narrowing down our topic to, bringing it down to such a level, where we could, easily approach or manage the topic and, information, which we then collect from different, sources. Of course, we give attention to our purpose of research. We do talk about, like audience for whom, we are actually conducting the research. And then comes what we survey, our topic. Surveying our topic actually means, like if you remember, in essay writing, when I discussed with you how to analyze essay topic, there I said like, fundamentally there are 2 things in an essay topic. First of all, the strategy, and the second thing is the content. Inside the content, I said there are some prompts, which we also call as, terms of questions. So these terms of questions are actually the keywords of that very topic. Those keywords are actually the action words, which, of course, you have to keep very much in mind, while doing research. You, of course, revolve around, move about, the same 3, 4, or 2, those action words, or the terms of questions. Now, this is actually was analyzing essay question. Exactly the same way, when you have framed your research question, exactly the same way you, analyze that research, question, you find out the terms of question, and then through, which we call as, primary analysis of your topic, which is what you try to find out the meanings and the definitions, of the same action words or terms of questions through different encyclopedia. For example, Britannica, Americana, or, Columbia Encyclopedia. You consult these and you find out the basic, meanings of those, you can say, terms of questions, so that, the question statement of your research is very much, clear, and then happens what you collect, or you can say you make a list of different sources which you're going to use in your research. And after that comes the evaluation stage. In evaluation stage, what you do actually, look, you have analyzed your research topic, and then you have read about from different sources of information about that topic. Then what we do, we bring our topic and our research strategy, in an evaluation stage, where we do what we, if needed, we fine-tune our topic, or we set the focus of our research. If that needs some adjustment, we do that. And also, since we have gone through different, sources of information, we evaluate our sources, because the quality of your research depends upon the quality of your sources of information. Then happens what? You actually start working with your sources of information, and then you have collected enough, information with you, and then outline of your research is also with you, and you start, organizing different pieces of information. And side by side, you keep on evaluating. You keep on fine-tuning your research question. You keep on fine-tuning, your research strategy, which you follow, so that, 2-3 things could be synchronized: the purpose, the audience, and the very research problem. That could be like, synchronized, tuned up, with each other. And then, of course, you draft your research, you revise your research, you edit your research, you proofread your research. So these are, of course, the steps of your conducting research, or you can say research writing. So, if you put it in parallel with the process of writing, so you would feel that, yes, in a way, process of writing with a few inclusions is somewhat the same thing. And the details, like, with which we studied the process of writing was more of like, research writing, if you could, appreciate that. Now, in our research, since we are, depending on lots of material, which is actually external material, internal mean, me, myself, means the ideas, information, in my mind. If I write that, fine. But if I, rely on, of course, I will rely in research on external sources, for example, libraries. Inside the libraries, I'm going to rely on different books available in the library, journals in the library, magazines in the library. Of course, I'll be, relying on some manuscripts available there. Let's say newspapers also, some online material, different websites are there. Then, of course, I can depend on some TV or radio, interviews, So, external sources are many, of course, in front of me. And I'm making a very good use of those sources. Now, dear students, in research, the most important thing which you have to keep in mind is that whatever, sources of information, internal or external, you're using, you have to document those with your, research. You are writing research essay, or you're writing a research article, or you are like, producing a research thesis, for example. Whatever you are doing, very much concern you should show towards a very careful documenting, recording of these, sources of information. You consulted books, you have to mention, those books with your research. You consulted newspapers, consulted encyclopedia, consulted some websites, some newspapers, magazines, journals. Very much important thing, very much important concern you have to show that you are mentioning names of the authors, names of these works, the publications, all that. That's very much important in research. If it's your internal source of information, for example, I'm relying on my own, information, my own ideas, that's all right. But if it's an external, you have to mention it with your essay, with your article, with your thesis. This is what we actually call documenting sources of information. And the rest of my lecture, of course, I'll focus on the same, how to document, our sources of information. Now, please keep in mind, you must have, seen written somewhere, or you must have seen, in the real sense, some research, where you found people documenting sources in a very inconsistent manner. I mean to say, if there are some books, for example, people consulted for their research. So what they do is, they write the book name, for example, 7 Habits by Stephen R. Covey. No year of publication, no chapters or pages, which they have consulted. It's mentioning, let's say no edition thing they talk about, no publication information. I mean, who is the publisher and where that book actually was published from. So these many, pieces, of course, they miss out, maybe due to carelessness or what. There are some standard formats. If we follow those standard formats, what benefits, we'll gain. Our documenting sources will be extremely consistent and globally standard. What are those standard formats? Number one, we have APA format. APA stands for American Psychological Association. And it's, further if you need its references online, its website is www.apastyle.org. Of course, you can yourself go and see, what this all is about. Second important, document format or citation format is MLA, which stands for Modern Language Association. Now, if you follow these two, I mean, you can follow either APA. APA mostly is followed for scientific writings, and MLA is followed for non-scientific, humanities, work and all. So if you follow, you're following, I mean, doesn't matter which one according to your subject, your research will be globally standardized. What benefits you're going to have if you follow APA or MLA? Of course, number one, cross-referencing facility you are giving to your, readers. If I have, written, let's say, a research essay, and I have in APA, let's say, documented all my sources of information, now you are, if my reader, what benefit I'm actually giving you in future, if you need to, locate the same sources of information for your own research, for example. So you can take my research to the library over there. You can find out all the books, magazines, websites, journals, encyclopedia, which I use for my research. You can also make a use of that. So this is what actually we call cross-reference. Your readers can cross-reference, your research. All the sources which you consulted, since you have given every tiddly-bitly information about those sources, second person, third person can also make benefit from. Number two, consistency. If you're following any global standardized format, then all people who use APA, they will find that the research is inconsistent. They would know where I'm writing my parenthetical citations and where I'm writing, my reference or my bibliography. Of course, they would know it. There would, of course, will be a consistency. If I'm APA user, you are APA user, we know each other. We know each other's, style. Of course, we'll be knowing that how books will be documented, how newspapers are documented, and what to learn from, those pieces of information, which we are, documenting with our research. Number three, credibility. Credibility actually is a difference between internal and external pieces of information. Internal, fine. I mean, if I, researched based on my own information, my own examination, my own analysis, that's all right. Nobody can, raise any eyebrow. Why? Because this is my personal, exploration. But if I have relied on external sources, and I haven't mentioned the names of those sources, then everybody, of course, is going to raise finger that, many questions you will have to answer. Your credibility, your goodwill, of course, will be at stake. Why? Because you are not acknowledging the works of those people, who burnt, the midnight oils, in producing their research, and you took benefits from their research, and you used, their information, you used their work, for your own research, and you did not acknowledge. This is something I would say the greatest sin, I'd like to call it, in research. The last thing is, plagiarism. Again, the same thing. If your research is with all source documentation, then people, of course, will not say that you have misused, these sources. These days, plagiarism, of course, is punishable, crime. This is intellectual theft, okay? And there are, organizations which are research organizations, which monitor research globally. They are, keeping an eye on, different, research going on across the world. And if they find any research with plagiarism, of course, they stand up and, they, of course, bring it to, a panel, where that ultimately is decided whether, this, person, the researcher, he committed plagiarism or not. So, how to avoid this plagiarism, how to, go away from this plagiarism, very simple thing. Whatever external source you have consulted, just document that, give its name, author's name, work name, its publication, information, and save yourself. So this is how, benefits you can gain from, following some, international, global, standardized, research formats. I named two research formats, number one APA and number two MLA. They have lots of similarities and a few differences. First, I'll talk with you, talk about APA thing, and then, towards the end of my today's lecture, I'll try to compare APA and MLA. APA, as I said, this is American Psychological Association. It has two major focuses. Number one, reference page. It helps you to prepare your reference page. And number two, parenthetical citations. Now, what's the difference in these two? Look here. If you have consulted someone's full-fledged work, let's say a book is someone's full-fledged work. You consulted newspaper, magazine, encyclopedia. I mean, a whole lot of stuff, if you consulted the size of information, if it's huge, for example, that piece of information comes onto a reference page. Now, reference page actually is a page where that, of course, is set at the end of your essay or your article, where, alphabetically you organize all, sources. Books are there, newspapers are there, websites are there, encyclopedia, whatever source you have consulted, alphabetically you mention there. Now, what is parenthetical citation? Parenthetical citation means inside the text references. What does it mean? Look, you did not consult you did not, use someone's full-fledged book. Rather, just a line from that book. Maybe a small news, from some newspaper. Maybe a small facts and figures, from some encyclopedia, for example. You have not consulted the whole work of somebody, rather small bits and pieces. Like you use quotes, for example. Somebody said, first thing first is someone's quotation, for example. Or first understand, then, to be understood is someone's quotation if you want to quote these two lines. Or if work is, Jinnah's line, for example, you want to quote. How you quote that? Very simply, inside the text, you write like Jinnah said and his quotation. And with the quotation, you write, let's say, the author's name. You write the year in which, he said this. And the page number, if it was published, somewhere, it's page number. So we have then two APA focuses on two things. Number one, out of the text, citations, and inside the text citations. Out of the text means, as I said, books, journals, magazines, all separately, alphabetically arranged at the end of your essay or article. Second one is inside the text, citations, like quotations are there, like if you haven't just copied somebody word to word, rather you have summarized, his point of view, that again, is inside the text citation. Or if you have, paraphrased someone, someone's point you have reworded in your own language, that also is, inside the text, citation. So the both things APA monitors and helps you how to document it. Now let's discuss one by one, how APA helps you prepare the reference page. Like on the reference page, you will name books, you will name, let's say, newspapers, you will name magazines, then this websites are there, So all these things you'll name on a reference page. Let's take a look. What's the format? What comes first? What comes second? What comes third? Let's take a look. Now this is, reference page citation. Every citation should have at least 3 things. Number 1, author's name should be there. Number 2, title of work. And number 3, publication information. And example I have given, let's say the first item is, of course, writer's name. O'Connor is the writer. The second item is year of publication. And what comes next is express yourself in written English. This is the title of work. If it's a book, then it's a book name. And the next 2, you can see there are 2 items with the colon mentioned. This is actually publication information. The first one is the place of publication, Illinois. And the second one is publisher's name, NTS. So, dear student, this is how we prepare a bibliographic note. Please do not forget, now we are actually talking about how to prepare references. References mean out of the text citations. And I have given you an example that every citation, which is the reference citation out of the text citation, it should have 3 important things. You should mention author's name, you should mention, the work name, title of work, and number 3, you should mention its publication information. The publication information means, of course, 3 things. The year it was published, number 1, the place it was published from, number 2, and number 3, the publisher. Now, let's, study how to record books, magazines, newspapers, and, websites. Now, of course, I'll discuss these, one by one. Let's first study what is the format of recording books as an external source. The first one, J, it was, J, which means author's name. Please keep in mind, author's name's surname we mention first, then we put comma and the remaining names. For example, if someone's name is A.J. Smith, A.J. Smith, Abraham Jr. Smith. Smith is actually his surname. So in bibliographic note, first we'll mention surname and then the remaining. For example, from A.J. Smith, it will be Smith, comma, A.J. So this is how we'll, document, we'll write author's name. After this author's name will come, of course, year of publication, which I have mentioned, let's say, in brackets 1994. And then comes title of work, Achilles in Vietnam, combat, trauma, and the undoing of character. Now, you have seen, this title, the name of this title or the title of, this work is divided by a colon, which means, major title and minor title. There are some books, which have dual, titles, major and then minor. Both we need to mention. Of course, we are going to separate this, with the help of a colon. What comes next is New York, and then again colon and touchstone. Now, New York is actually the place from where, this book was, published, and touchstone, of course, is the publisher. So this is how we document book. Don't forget, first of all, author's name, and author's name, surname is first. Number 2, year of publication. Number 3, title of work. If title of work is in dual form, so both we mention, so we separate, with the help of colon. Next comes what? Publication information. The first one is place of publication. The second one is publisher's name. Both will be separated with the help of colon. Another important thing you keep in mind, these items are separated with the help of full stops. You can take a look once again that after author's name there's a full stop, year of publication after full stop, title of work full stop, and of course at the end, which is the publication information, there is a full stop. This is how we document books if we consult. Number 2, articles in a magazine. Of course, method will be the same. Author's name will come first. Since articles are, they, Like in books, we only talked about the year of publication, like if it's 1990, 2000, 2006. But when we talk about magazines, over there we have to mention day, month, and year. All the three. Not the year only we mention, rather day, month, and year. All the three items, we give. And of course, we give in brackets the way we, gave year of publication of books in brackets. Once again, you can see author's name is there, his surname first, and the remaining, names second. Then in brackets, full date, year first, month second, and then day. Next comes Dizzy Days. Dizzy Days is the title of work. You can say it was articles, headline, you can say. Next comes what? The New Yorker. New Yorker is the magazine name. And then you can see there are numbers. These are actually page numbers, 40 to 45. This is how we document magazine. For books, we are not writing page numbers. Why? Because you consulted the whole book. If you, let's say, did not consult the whole book, you consulted, one or two pages. So you can mention, P.P means P.P, let's say 9 and hyphen, let's say 12. It means page 9 to page 12. You can mention. But usually we do not, mention page numbers with the books. As far as magazines concerned, articles, there are like hundreds of articles in a magazine. So what to do actually, the article which you consulted, its page number you need to mention. If its article was, according to this slide, 40 to 45, means, 6-page article, mention that. Comes next is, web page. Very interesting that usually how people document the websites, they consult, simply they write website address, which is of course a mistake. If not a mistake, then if we say AP and MLA, from AP and MLA point of view, of course it will be a mistake. Means there are more than this electronic address, information we have to give. For example, here also we have to talk about who is the author of the article, article's name you have to talk about, and then website name, and of course then website's address. Plus, when that article was written and when you downloaded that article. So in website, documentation, you have to write 2 dates. One date will be, of course, the date of that article when it was, published, and second will be the day you downloaded. Take a look. The first one, of course, author's name. The article, which you downloaded, its author's name. Next comes the date of publication, in brackets again, and then hot button. The hot button is the article's name. Comes next is rough cut. Now, rough cut actually is the website name. For example, if you are consulting BBC website, let's say, or CNN, for example. So, BBC will be its name, and that is the website page name. CNN may be the website page name, so you can write, CNN thing. And then, the language I have given there is retrieved October 28, 1998 from electronic address. Now, retrieved means, the day you downloaded. So, you write retrieved, then comes date. Now, this date you're not going to mention in brackets. Without brackets, it will go from, and then full-fledged, that electronic address, of course, www.roughcut.com. So, this is how, we record, we document the website, sources. We, please keep in mind, do not just mention the website's electronic address. Rather, talk about author's name, talk about website name, article name, year of its publication, plus the date you downloaded. This is very, very, very important. Let's now move towards newspapers now. How to document newspapers if you have consulted. Again, for newspaper thing, what is important? Again, author's name will be important. Then newspapers, the day it was published, printed. And next, of course, title of the work. And then will be newspaper's name and the page number. We do not write the, like in books, publication information is what? It's a name of 3, like date, number 2, place of publication. For newspapers, place of publication is not important. Newspaper's name is important. Newspaper's date of printing is important. And what you call that? Just then the page number on which that article was printed is important. You can take a look. The first one is, again, author's name, in bracket, date of its printing. Then comes article's full-fledged name, master teachers whose artistry glows in private. And comes next is New York Times. This is, newspaper's name only. Place of publication, we haven't mentioned. And then comes what? Page number. B2. Now, P stands for page, of course. B2, newspaper is divided in sections and then subsections like A, B, C, D, then, A1, A2, A3 subsections, B1, B2, B3 subsections. So, newspaper, page numbers are usually not this way, A1, 2, 3, 4, because newspapers can be of, 100 pages or 50 pages or 60 pages. So, 1, 2 going down to 60 or 100, of course, will be difficult for the newspapers readers to manage. So what they do is actually they divide newspapers into sections, and then sub numbers, small numbers 1 to 9, they prefer using. Okay, let's now move towards a source with no known author. So what we do actually, in here, since the author is not there, so first line of the work we mention first, and then its date of publication. Next comes newspaper name, and then, of course, page number. Take a look. When newspapers are there, different pieces of news which are printed in the newspapers, they usually do not go with the author's name. So if you want to quote some piece of news, for example, of course, author is not there. So what you do that, either headline you use as the starter of this source, or if not headline, the topic sentence you can use, like the example which I read for you. In here, the topic sentence actually we used as a starter. Since author is not there, and so what we do, we start from, I cannot call it title of work actually, we start from that piece of writing, that piece of information which we used for our research. Its topic sentence goes first, and then accordingly the same all pieces, like its year of publication, the newspaper, the page number. This is how we do it. Let's move now towards parenthetical citations. As I told you before, parenthetical citations are inside the text citations. And when we use parenthetical citations, three things. Number one, if any quote you copied from, if you are summarizing someone's material and you're using in your essay or in your article. Number three, if you are paraphrasing. I mean, you read some information, then you translated that information in your own language, okay, and you are using in your research. So in these three cases, you have to mention parenthetical citation. Now, what is parenthetical citations? Like in a reference page, we were recording so many things. We were recording author's name, we were recording the year of publication, title of the work and place of publication, publisher's name, page numbers. In parenthetical citation, we try to keep ourselves, very brief. We, record three things. Number one, author's name, only surname. Number two, we record year of publication and the page number, where from you took this piece. As I, mentioned before, that there are lots of, quotations available in dictionaries and encyclopedia of quotation, and you want to use, some quote. Three things will be required for APA citation. You have to write author's name. Number two, of course, here it will be divided with the help of, comma. Number two, year of publication. And number three, page number. On your screen, there is one example. Like in commas, inverted commas, seek first to understand, then to be understood. Now, this is the quote which you want to use in your writing. Of course, these are not your words. These are someone else's word. Therefore, you have to, show it off from your text with the help of, inverted commas. And then right after the quote, in bracket, number one, you mentioned author's name, which is Kavi. Now, here you're not using his first or second name, only surname we are using, because, we try to keep ourselves, very much brief. And then, comma, and comes next what? Year of publication, and then the page number. This is an example of parenthetical citation. We call it parenthetical citation. The word parenthetical is, of course, from the parentheses, which we call as brackets. Now, there are two styles in APA of writing parenthetical citation. Style number one is that first you mention the code, and right after the code, you can give these three pieces of information: author, year of publication, and the page number. Second option with you is that you start half citation you give at the start of the code and half you give in the end. I mean, author's name and year of publication you can give at the start, and page number you can give, in the end. The quote you sandwich inside. These are two possibilities. You can, choose the one which suits you. Easier one is, of course, the one, in which you give all the three pieces of information, at the end of the quotation, because it's very easy to manage. Otherwise, text management sometimes becomes, question if you're not very good at, at desktop. You lack, desktop skills, so it would be difficult for you. So very easy way is give the quote, and after the quote, in brackets, give those three pieces of information. Let's, discuss different possibilities, towards parenthetical citation. Look here. One possibility is, of course, one quote and author's name you give. If there are two authors, for example, and their surnames are same, what to do? I'm saying that if you are quoting someone's work, this is now not just one author, rather there are two authors. You quote from some book, that book is written by two authors, the surnames are same, what to do? Very simple. You will put this parenthetical, citation in, of course, in two groups inside the brackets, separated with the help of semicolon. Example you can see, more than one author with the same last name, like James in first group and James in the second group, these are two same surnames. So what we are doing actually, first citation, parenthetical citation, and then we put semicolon and the second, citation. So this is how we separate it. And one more thing is, we add any initial. Let's say if, James, the first name is James, its middle name, let's say, was H initial, so H James, and the second name is James, but its middle name is W as initial, so W. So H and W, this separated, and this mentioned you that, this is not just one author written in two separate brackets, rather, these are two, different names, okay, but of course the, quote was the same, or the information, which you consulted, of course, was the same. Exactly the same way, if there are, more than two authors you want to quote at the same time. Look here, one way is one quote, it's parenthetical citation. Second quote, it's parenthetical citation. There is another way that you want to, quote, let's say, 3 to 4 items in your essay simultaneously, one after the other. So what, you have two choices. Either give parenthetical citation, with each and every quote separately, or you can, group these citations together also. Like on your screen, I can, illustrate this point that two or more works in the same parenthesis. How? Like first author's name and then year of publication. Then comes semicolon. Then second author's name, its year of publication. Then again semicolon. Third author's name and its year of publication. So this is how, you can mention all, authors separately. But of course, order has to be, very carefully managed. Order has to be same as, like, the quotes you have ordered. This is how, like, many authors you can manage, simultaneously in one bracket. Now, one more example of parenthetical citation. Work with 6 or more authors. 6 or more authors would be, of course, very difficult to manage inside the text. So what we do is actually we show, like the way, we say Imran and the company, exactly the same way we can mention. Like, I have prepared one parenthetical citation for you when authors are, 6 or more than 6. So what we do actually, one author, and then we use a phrase at all. At all means, this man and all his, companions. And then comes the year of publication. This is how we manage. And then comes, if a specific part of a source you want to quote, then again author's name will be there. its, year of publication. And now comes what? The chapter name. Let's say chapter 2 or chapter 1. This is one possibility. Let's go ahead. If the source has no known author, then use an abbreviated version of the title. Like if the full title is California Cigarette Tax Deters Smokers. So if you want to prepare, its citation, very simply, write California and then year of publication. So what we are actually doing, like if you remember, we discussed how to prepare, a bibliographic note of a piece, or of a source where author is not known. So what actually we studied, that you can use either the headline or the topic sentence and then the remaining pieces, the way we record books. But in parenthetical citation, what we do actually, very first word of the headline or very first word of the topic sentence we use only, and then the year of publication, we give. So this is how we, we write parenthetical citations. Please keep in mind, this is very, very important, the difference between reference page and parenthetical citation. This is something very, very important. Reference page means when all the sources which you discussed full-fledged you give at the end of your essay or at the end of your article. Parenthetical citations means when you are not consulting full-fledged actually sources, you are consulting smaller parts of those sources and you are using either word to word, or you are summarizing them, or you are paraphrasing them. Inside the text you are using, then we do not mention these sources on reference page, rather we mention these, inside the text, and we call them parenthetical citations. Whichever word, whichever line, whichever phrase, whichever paragraph, we copied from some source, it has to go with its original author and the publication, information. Since this piece is not written by you, if you do not mention, look here, you quoted somebody's words, for example, even if you summarized or paraphrased, look here, this is not your idea. This is not a piece from your mind. These are the words of someone else. And if you do not mention, parenthetical citation, you will be caught in plagiarism. And which is, of course, I told you, a punishable crime. Therefore, advice from my side is, in research writing, we have to, draw a line between internal and external sources. Internal sources, we don't mind, don't mention. That's your information, that's your examination, that's your analysis. It's all right. But external information, sources, they have to be documented either on a reference page or as parenthetical citation. This is something very, very important. Now, let's, move towards MLA format now and see what's the difference between APA and MLA. As I told you at the start of my lecture, that there is a very small difference in APA and MLA. Of course, in MLA, which stands for Modern Language Association, if you want to find more information about online, you can go www.mla.org. Now, what's the difference? Of course, in MLA also, you will write author's name. In MLA, you will write, of course, the year of publication. You will write, author's, title of work also, page numbers also. But the difference is, mostly difference will be with the placement of this information. Like in APA, if you can now recall, in APA, first author's name, and right after author's names, we give what? The year of publication. But in MLA, what happens? This year of publication actually goes at the end, It goes towards the end of the bibliographic note. To just give you an example, that the first is what? Author's name, right? And then comes Babel Tower. Now, this Babel Tower is the book name. And then comes next is New York is the place of publication. Random House is the publisher's name. And then coming, year of publication. This is what actually the difference is between APA and MLA. In APA, we use year of publication right next to author's name. In MLA, we are writing year of publication at the end of the bibliographic note. So this is how we record books. One more difference, in APA, we do not italicize title of work. I mean, if it's a book, then book name. We do not italicize. We write it in, regular form. But in MLA, we italicize, title of the work. So these two, differences are there. Year of publication at the end of the bibliographic note, and number two, title of work we have to italicize. Let's see how we document article in magazine. Again, author's name is first, and then comes Dizzy Days, which is article name. The New Yorker is the magazine name. Then comes date. In APA, date was coming first, and here date is coming, at the end. This is how we record, article in a magazine. So you are, of course, continuously watching that difference is minor. Just the placement is the difference. Otherwise, the items which we need for documentation are, of course, the same. Every, bit and piece of APA, and the same are the bits and pieces of MLA. Placement is the difference. Let's go ahead. How we record web page. Now here you will find some interesting difference. Of course, number one comes the author's name. Then is coming the article which you downloaded. And here article is put in inverted commas. Then comes rough cut, which is the website name, and is coming next the date of this article's publication. Next is coming the date when you downloaded this article. And website's electronic address, we put in brackets. Now, this is, if you remember, in APA, we say retrieved from so-and-so, website, okay? But in here, we do not use this phrase retrieved from. We simply give the date of publication, then we give, that website's name, and after website's name, just in bracket, full-fledged electronic address, we mentioned. So this is how we record web pages in MLA. Going towards newspaper article, again, author's name is first. Master teachers whose artistry glows in private, this is the article name, newspaper name, and then coming what? The date of printing. Another important thing, in APA, page number is abbreviated as P, and then page number. In MLA, the letter P we do not mention, we simply write the page number. If it's page number 7, so we'll write simply 7, that would be understood as page number, Otherwise, if it's a sectional page number, then of course B1, B2, B3, this is how you mention it. Going towards a source with no known author, exactly the same way, headline or the topic sentence, but here in inverted commas. Next, newspaper name. Next is what? The day of printing, and then page number. Another interesting thing is that date and page number, they are separated with the help of a colon. Let's now move towards parenthetical citations in MLA. Now, what's the difference? In APA, we give 3 pieces of information: author's name, and then year of publication and page number. In MLA, we do not give year of publication. We only write author's name and page number. Like you can see example on your screen. Seek first to understand, then to be understood. And in brackets, as parenthetical citation, Kavi is the author's name and page 45. Now, Kavi, author's name, page 45 means, the page 45 of the book written by Kavi. So that is the major difference between APA and MLA. Dear students, these are 2, standard formats to document, sources of information, of course, which are external sources of information. The benefits, if I count again for you, number 1, cross-referencing, facility you give to your readers. Number 2, consistent format you're offering to your readers. Number 3, credibility. And number 4, you can skip plagiarism. Today, we talked about research writing and documenting sources. Research writing, we, studied, that there is a huge similarity between, writing process and the research writings, steps. They are somewhat the same. Of course, like in research, we keep on fine-tuning our topic. We keep on, fine-tuning our research strategy. And then we talked about how to document external sources. I discussed with you two, standard formats, APA and MLA. And in APA, we said that doesn't matter, it's a book, newspaper, it's a magazine, it's a website, or it's a source, of which author is not known. We have to give certain, systematic information for all these, like author's name has to be there, year of publication is there, title of the work has to be, then publication information, should go. Of course, newspaper and books, there are, of course, differences. They have to go by the items in which I discussed with you. And then we talked about MLA, and I discussed with you the minor differences between APA and MLA, and, how, like, parenthetical citation of MLA is different from APA. So this is, how we, studied today how to document sources on a reference page and in parenthetical citation. I hope you understood. It's, of course, a bit technical. You need to, like, revise the handouts which I have given you so that, in future when you write research essays or articles, you should not find any difficulty in documenting sources. With this, take care of yourself. I hope you liked it. See you next time. Bye-bye.